The air felt heavy, like it was holding its breath, as I stood outside Dad's old colonial house in suburban Boston, the porch light flickering like my resolve. My heart pounded so loud I swore it echoed off the oak trees lining the street. I was 23, and tonight, I'd finally tell him I'm gay or lose myself trying. The screen door creaked as I stepped inside, the familiar scent of cedar and coffee wrapping around me like a hug I wasn't sure I deserved. Dad was in the living room, sprawled on the worn leather couch, a Red Sox game muted on the TV. His flannel shirt was untucked, his graying hair a mess from raking leaves all day. He looked up, his hazel eyes catching mine, and grinned. "Eli, you're late. Grab a beer, kid." His voice was warm, but my stomach churned. This was it. I sat across from him, my hands gripping my knees like they could anchor me. "Dad, I need to tell you something." My voice cracked, betraying the months I'd spent rehearsing this moment. He tilted his head, the game forgotten, his brow furrowing with that quiet intensity he got when he sensed something big. "I'm gay," I blurted, the words tumbling out like stones I'd carried too long. My face burned, and I stared at the floor, waiting for the world to shift. Silence stretched, thick and unbearable, until I dared to look up. Dad's lips curved into a slow, gentle smile, one I'd never seen before, like he'd been waiting for this. "Eli," he said softly, leaning forward, "I'm proud of you. And I'm gay too." The room spun. My breath caught, sharp and disbelieving. Dad stoic, widowed, Red Sox obsessed. Dad was gay. The man who'd raised me alone since Mom died when I was 10, who never dated, who kept his life locked tighter than a safe, was telling me this. "What?" I managed, my voice barely a whisper. He chuckled, a low, nervous sound, and rubbed the back of his neck. "Yeah. I've known since I was your age. Maybe younger. Never said it out loud. Not till now." His eyes glistened, not with tears, but with something raw, like relief. "Your mom knew. We made it work. For you. But I've been hiding, Eli. Too long." I stared at him, my world rearranging itself. The man I'd idolized, feared disappointing, was sitting there, vulnerable, mirroring the truth I'd just bared. It was surreal, like we'd both stepped off a cliff and found solid ground together. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, my voice thick. He sighed, leaning back, his gaze drifting to the framed photo of Mom on the mantel. "Fear. Mostly. Back then. In the 80s. It wasn't like today. You didn't just come out. Not in this town. Not with a kid to raise. And after your mom passed, I didn't want to risk losing you too." His voice broke, just a little, and it hit me like a punch. Dad had been carrying this alone, all these years. We talked late into the night, the Red Sox game looping unnoticed. He told me about his first love, a boy named James from college, a secret romance that ended when James moved away. I told him about Lucas, the barista I'd been crushing on at the coffee shop near BU. How I'd spent months working up the courage to ask him out. Dad listened, his smile growing. And for the first time, I saw him not just as my father, but as a man who'd loved and lost, who'd hidden himself to protect me. By midnight, we were laughing, swapping stories like old friends. I told him how I'd panicked when Lucas smiled at me last week, nearly spilling my latte. He admitted he'd been sneaking glances at a guy named Tom at the hardware store, too shy to say more than nice weather. It was ridiculous. Beautiful. This shared vulnerability. We were scared. Both of us. But we weren't alone anymore. The next morning, I woke to the smell of pancakes, Dad's specialty. He was humming in the kitchen, something he hadn't done since I was a kid. Eli, he called, flipping a pancake with a flourish. You got plans today? Thought we could hit the hardware store. Maybe I'll finally talk to Tom. His grin was boyish, nervous, and I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in years. Only if you help me ask Lucas out. I shot back, and he raised an eyebrow. Game on. We were in this together now. Two truths laid bare. Two lives starting over. But as I watched him pour batter, a flicker of worry crept in. Coming out to Dad was one thing, what about the rest of the world? Our small town wasn't exactly a pride parade. And I'd heard the whispers at church. The sideways looks. Could we really do this? The hardware store smelled of sawdust and metal. A maze of tools and paint cans that felt like Dad's second home. He pushed the cart, his knuckles white, stealing glances at the lumber aisle where Tom, a broad-shouldered guy with a gray ponytail, was stacking planks. I nudged him. Go say hi. Dad. You've got this. He shot me a look, half terror, half determination, and muttered, this is harder than telling you. I grinned, but my own nerves were buzzing. Lucas was working his shift at Brood Awakening, and I'd promised myself I'd ask him out today. The thought made my palms sweat, but seeing Dad take a shaky step toward Tom gave me courage. If he could do this at 52, I could manage a coffee shop crush. Dad approached Tom, pretending to inspect a hammer. Nice day for projects. Huh? He said, his voice too loud. Tom looked up, his weathered face breaking into a smile. Sure is. Mike. You building something new? I watched from a distance, my heart swelling as Dad relaxed, their conversation flowing from tools to baseball. It was small, tentative, but it was a start. I left them to it, heading to the coffee shop. The bell jingled as I stepped inside, and there was Lucas, dark curls, green eyes, wiping down the counter with a lazy grin. Eli, usual latte? He asked, and my mouth went dry. I nodded, fumbling for words. Actually. Lucas, you free this weekend? Maybe we could grab dinner. My face burned, but his grin widened. Took you long enough, he teased, scribbling his number on a napkin. Text me. I floated out of the shop, clutching the napkin like a lifeline. Back home, Dad was whistling, a spring in his step. Tom's coming to the game next week, he said, almost shyly. We high-fived, two idiots riding the high of new possibilities. But that night, as I scrolled through X, I saw a local thread about family values, laced with venom toward those people. My stomach sank. This wasn't just about us anymore. Sunday morning brought church, a ritual we'd kept since Mom died. The pews were packed, and Pastor Dan's sermon on traditional marriage hit like a slap. I glanced at Dad, his jaw tight, and felt the eyes of the congregation misses. Carter's frown, Mr. Hayes whispered to his wife. Were they talking about us? Did they know? After the service, Mrs. Carter cornered me by the coffee table. Eli, you and your dad seem different lately. Everything okay? Her tone was sharp, probing, and I mumbled something vague, my heart racing. Back home, Dad was quiet, staring at his coffee. They'll talk. Eli, he said finally. Always have. But we can't hide forever. His words were steady, but I saw the fear in his eyes, fear I shared. Coming out to each other was one thing. Facing the town was another. I thought of Lucas, of Tom, of the lives we wanted. Could we really have them here? That week, I met Lucas for dinner at a diner outside town, where no one knew us. He was easy to talk to, his laugh like sunlight. But when I mentioned the church incident, his face darkened. My family didn't take it well when I came out, he said, stirring his milkshake. They still don't talk to me. His vulnerability cracked something in me, and I reached for his hand, our fingers brushing. I'm not going anywhere, I said, and meant it. Dad, meanwhile, was texting Tom, their chats growing longer each night. I caught him smiling at his phone, like a teenager, and teased him mercilessly. But the whispers in town grew louder. At the grocery store, I overheard two women muttering about Mike's strange behavior. I wanted to scream, to defend him, but fear kept me silent. Dad noticed my mood and pulled me aside. Eli, we're not alone in this. We've got each other. And Tom, he's been through it too. His voice was firm, a reminder we were building something worth fighting for. The Red Sox game was electric. The stadium a sea of cheers and beer foam. Dad and Tom sat beside me, their shoulders brushing as they argued over a bad call. I watched them. My heart full. Dad was alive in a way I hadn't seen since I was a kid. Lucas was there too, his hand grazing mine in the crowd, a secret thrill amid the chaos. For a few hours, we were just four guys, free and happy. But freedom was fleeting. On Monday, I found a note slipped under our door. Fags don't belong here. The words burned, sharp and ugly, and I hid it from Dad, my hand shaking. I wanted to protect him, but he found it crumpled in the trash. His face hardened, but he pulled me into a hug. We're stronger than this, Eli, he said, but his voice wavered. I wondered if he believed it. I told Lucas about the note over coffee, my voice low to avoid eavesdroppers. He squeezed my hand, his eyes fierce. You don't have to face this alone, he said. I've got your back. His strength steadied me, but the fear lingered. That night, Dad and I sat down with Tom, who'd faced his own share of hate in the 90s. You can't let them win, Tom said, his voice gruff but kind. Live your truth, even when it's hard. Inspired, I started a blog on X, anonymous at first, sharing our story. The response was overwhelming support from strangers, but also venom from locals. One post called us a disgrace to Boston. Dad read it over my shoulder, his face pale. Maybe we should leave, he said quietly, and it broke my heart. This was our home. Lucas and I grew closer, stealing moments in parks and quiet bars. He told me about his dreams opening a cafe, maybe in Provincetown, where no one would blink at two guys holding hands. I imagined it. A life where we didn't have to look over our shoulders. But leaving meant abandoning Dad. And I couldn't do that. Not now. Dad and Tom were moving faster too. Tom invited us to his cabin in Vermont for a weekend. A chance to escape the town's judgment. The drive was long. The Green Mountains unfolding like a promise. At the cabin, we cooked steaks, played cards, and laughed until my sides hurt. Dad and Tom shared a look by the fire, and I saw it love. Cautious but real. Lucas caught my eye, and we slipped outside, kissing under the stars, the world fading away. Back home, reality hit hard. The church announced a family values rally, and Pastor Dan called Dad, asking him to reconsider his path. Dad hung up, his hands trembling. But he didn't cry. "I'm done hiding," he said, and I believed him. We decided to fight back not with fists, but with truth. I made my blog public, linking it to my name. The first comment was from Lucas, "You're braver than you know." The blog went viral, shared across X and beyond. Messages poured in support from queer kids in Ohio, a teacher in Seattle, even a pastor in Maine who apologized for his church's hate. But the locals were ruthless. Our mailbox was vandalized, spray-painted with slurs. Dad's truck tires were slashed. I felt helpless, but Dad was a rock. "We're not running," he said, cleaning the paint off with grim determination. Lucas and I spent every night together now, planning our next move. He suggested a community meeting, a chance to face the town head-on. I was terrified, but Dad agreed. "Let's show them who we are," he said. Tom helped us organize, his calm presence grounding us. We booked the community center, spreading the word through flyers and X. The night of the meeting, the room was packed. Neighbors, churchgoers, even kids from my high school. My knees shook as I stood at the podium. Dad beside me, Lucas and Tom in the front row. "We're your neighbors," I started, my voice unsteady. "We're not here to change you. We just want to live." Dad spoke next, his voice steady, telling his story, his love for Mom, his hidden truth, his hope for me. The room was silent, some faces soft, others hard. Then Mrs. Carter stood, her voice sharp. "This is a Christian town. You're leading Eli astray." My heart sank, but Lucas stood up, his voice clear. "Love isn't sin. Hate is." The room erupted. Some clapped. Others shouted. A man in the back called us abominations. But a woman I didn't know stood and shared her story of losing her gay son to suicide. "I wish I'd fought for him," she said, tears streaming. The tide shifted, just a little. After, a few neighbors approached, offering quiet support. A kid from my old algebra class hugged me, whispering, "I'm bi." "Thank you." But the hate didn't stop. The next day, a brick crashed through our window. A note tied to it, "Leave." Dad called the police, but they shrugged it off as kids. I saw the strain in his eyes, the weight of protecting me. Lucas stayed over, his arms around me as we lay in my childhood bed. "We'll get through this," he whispered, but I wondered how. Dad and Tom were talking about moving to Vermont, where Tom's cabin felt like a safe haven. I wanted that for Dad, but I couldn't imagine leaving Lucas or Boston. My roots were here, tangled and deep. The harassment escalated. Eggs splattered our front door. Anonymous calls woke us at midnight. Dad stopped going to church, and I skipped the coffee shop, too scared to face the stairs. Lucas was my anchor, but even he was fraying, his boss warning him about causing trouble. Tom suggested we all move to Vermont, but Dad hesitated. "This is our home," he said, stubborn as ever. I poured my anger into the blog, writing about the hate, the fear, but also the love Dad's courage, Lucas's loyalty, Tom's quiet strength. The support grew, with donations coming in to fix our window, our tires. A queer group from Cambridge reached out, offering to host a rally for us. It felt like a lifeline, but also a spotlight we couldn't escape. The rally was set for the town square, and we braced for chaos. Lucas and I made signs, "Love wins. We are enough." Dad and Tom stood with us, their hands clasped, defiant. Hundreds showed Eupolis, queer kids, even some church members who'd left Pastor Dan's flock. But the counter-protesters came too, waving Bible verses and shouting. A bottle flew, grazing Tom's shoulder. Dad pulled him back, his face pale but fierce. "We're not leaving," he growled. The police finally stepped in, dispersing the crowd, but the tension lingered. That night, Lucas and I sat on the roof, staring at the stars. "I want a life with you," he said, his voice soft but sure. "But I'm scared we'll lose this fight." I kissed him, promising we'd find a way. But doubt gnawed at me. Could we really stay? Dad and Tom were planning their own future, talking about a small house in Vermont. I saw the light in Dad's eyes, the hope he'd buried for decades. But leaving felt like giving up, letting the haters win. I wrote a post that night, raw and unfiltered, about choosing love over fear. It exploded, shared by thousands, even picked up by a local news outlet. For the first time, I felt we weren't alone. The news coverage changed everything. Reporters called, wanting interviews. Allies flooded our inbox, offering legal help, security, even a fundraiser. But the hate grew. 2 more slurs on our lawn, a death threat in the mail. Dad hired a lawyer, and we got a restraining order against a known agitator. But it felt like plugging a dam with a fingertip. Lucas and I dreamed of our cafe, sketching logos on napkins. But reality kept intruding. His boss fired him, citing distractions. I was furious, but Lucas just shrugged. "I'll find something else," he said, but I saw the hurt. I took a part-time job at a bookstore to help with bills, my college degree gathering dust. Dad and Tom were pooling savings for Vermont, but Dad refused to leave until I was ready. One night, we all sat down, maps and budgets spread across the table. "Eli, you and Lucas could come with us," Tom said. "Start fresh." I looked at Lucas, his eyes searching mine. I wanted to say yes, but Boston was home, our history, our fight. Leaving felt like surrender, but staying felt like war. The next day, a miracle, the bookstore owner, a gruff woman named Ruth, offered Lucas a job. "I read your blog," she said. Your family now? It was small, but it was hope. We celebrated with cheap wine, Dad toasting to new beginnings. But that night, a fire broke out in our garage. The police called it arson, but no arrests were made. Dad's face was gray as he sifted through the ashes, and I knew he was breaking. The fire was the last straw. Dad sat me down, his voice steady but tired. Eli, we can't stay. Not like this. I nodded, tears burning. Lucas agreed we'd move to Vermont. All four of us. The decision was heavy, but it felt right. We'd build a life where we could breathe. Packing was bittersweet. I boxed up Mom's photos. My old baseball glove. Memories of a life we were leaving behind. Lucas and I found a small apartment near Tom's cabin, and Dad and Tom bought a fixer-upper nearby. The blog became our lifeline, a way to stay connected to allies. We planned a farewell post, thanking Boston for shaping us, even through the pain. The move was chaos-struck. Boxes. Tears. But Vermont was a balm. The air was crisp. The mountains endless. Our new home was small, but it was ours. Lucas and I worked at Ruth's friend's bookstore, saving for our cafe. Dad and Tom renovated their house, bickering like an old married couple. We laughed more, loved freely. One night, Lucas proposed, down on one knee by the lake, a simple ring in his hand. I said yes, crying, laughing. Dad and Tom cheered, their own rings glinting in the moonlight. They'd gotten engaged too. Quietly, weeks before. We planned a double wedding, small and perfect, under the Vermont stars. The wedding was everything: wildflowers, fairy lights, our closest allies from Boston and new friends from Vermont. I walked down the aisle with Lucas, Dad with Tom, our vows echoing with promises of love and fight. The blog post about it went viral, a beacon for others still hiding. We opened our cafe a year later, Truth Brew, a cozy spot where anyone could be themselves. Dad and Tom helped, painting walls, brewing coffee. The hate followed us, in small waist-snide comments. A broken window, but we were stronger now, surrounded by a community that chose love. Looking back, I see it. Coming out to Dad wasn't just about me. It was about us, breaking free together, finding joy in the ashes of fear. We lost a home, but gained a life. And every time I see Dad laugh with Tom, or Lucas smile at me over the counter, I know we won.